All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal's Thursday edition of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. As you can hear, I'm getting a little congested. Turns out I'm catching me a cold. And those are always sucky for me. Those are always horrible. But it's a good thing that we are where we are, because it's time for bed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are underway here on the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Things are looking good. Remember, tomorrow night we'll be doing listener emails and call-ins. Whatever you want to talk about that's paranormal, tomorrow's your night to talk. So definitely tune in, and the call-in number tomorrow night will be 213-233-3998. As you see on the screen you're looking at now. I don't know what I'm going to sound like tomorrow. I'm probably going to be full Darth Vader ride tomorrow, and that ought to be fun. But, tongue in cheek and all that. But, yeah, when I get colds, they really hit me hard. And I can just feel it just like kicking my tail all over the place. So this is going to get great. Yeah, I can hear the suggestions coming already. The ginger and tea and vitamin C and zinc, and I'm doing the best I can to be healthy, and this is my first cold in a couple of years, I guess, so I've done really well, but I guess that's what you get for being a hermit. So let's get into some of the stories tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But I hope a lot of you call in tomorrow, because chances are I'm not going to want to talk a whole lot. So I hope I hope a lot of you guys call in and talk to me, so I don't have to do so much of it. But anyway, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Maybe I'll snap right out of it. Maybe it'll be a real quick and easy cold. It's possible. This might just be a froggy night, and then tomorrow I'll feel better. But time will tell. Let's start the show. First one I'm going to read you is coming out of California. It started when I moved into my new house, and we thought it was going to be absolutely fantastic. The stuff that happens is so weird. First, we bought a machete and stuck it into a tree, and the next day, I wake up, the machete is on the ground, and I know that it was tight, because I tried to take it off, but it wouldn't budge. I asked the neighbors if anyone died in my house, and they said yes. They said that a guy got a machete and killed himself. Ooh, I can see why the machete didn't last on the tree. I also have a trampoline and I use it a lot, but one night I was sleeping and something woke me. The sound of jumping on the trampoline woke me up. I looked to see who it was, but nobody was there. The neighbors also said that an old lady died there too, and one night I was in my mom's room. I was I was watching a ghost show. It says I was seeing a ghost show, but then I see something on top of my bed, and I was white. And after a few seconds, it faded away. Or it was white, rather, not I was. More and more stuff keeps happening in my house, and I keep on telling my mom the things that happen, but she says she doesn't believe me or that I'm just imagining things. I keep on saying that things are true, but she keeps telling me the same thing. Until I find more things to tell you, I'm going to be outside looking for them. So if you have anything to tell, comment me or go to my email and send me a message. Well, I don't know what to tell you. If you got ghosts, you got ghosts. That's kind of the way it works. If you don't want ghosts, then you got to get someone to get rid of your ghosts. I don't know. It's not much more complicated than that usually. Depends on the haunting, though, I guess. All right, let's see. What is next? Out of Kentucky is next, ladies and gentlemen. From out of Kentucky, we have a fine story. It's kind of a long one, but it's a really long one. It has to do with Ouija board. All right. But a lot of it is actually a back and forth narrative or something. So I'll read this and see what it says. So I'm new to this, and hopefully no one will say that I'm an idiot for what I'm about to tell you. I'm not a Wiccan or a spiritualist. I'm Catholic, and I was raised in a home that was really supernaturally strict. My parents don't believe in ghosts or anything to do with the supernatural variety, and they forced those ideas upon my siblings and I since an early age. For example, my younger brother was not allowed to play with his imaginary friend because my father would tell him, if I can't see him, he's not real. Oh, no. That's not good. Therefore, my brother had to stop playing with it. His friend was a talking duckfish. And so, because of how my family raised us, when I was a teenager, I went through a sort of rebellion, and I became fascinated with the occult and other things. Not at any point did I worship any entity or idol. I just simply read books and went to a lot of websites online. So now to my story. When I was in my rebellious stage, I went behind my parents' back and purchased a Ouija board, along with other various items that I believed to be paranormal. And at one point during high school, I was invited to a party for a friend that practiced witchcraft. However, my friend had understanding parents who let her make her own decisions, and so they permitted me to bring over my Ouija board, and my friend had destroyed her own board due to a horrible occurrence. And just to point this out, at the time, I had no idea of her previous experience with the board, and neither were her parents aware of it. Somewhere around 1 or 2 a.m., my friend had gathered up a group of 5 of her friends that were also part of her coven and myself. She instructed the 6 of us to form a circle around the board, and she continued on to pour a ring of salt around us and a number of lit candles. She and her coven then chanted a verse about 5 times. They had told me earlier that they would perform a protection circle before they even touched the board. Although they planned on asking simple questions, they told me beforehand that it would be very serious and that I should stay calm at all times and not break the circle. Along with this information, the girls informed me at any time if I wanted to stop, and 4 or more of us agreed that we would. And as not to disturb the spirit, we would say a safe word, Lucy, so that it would appear that we were trying to get another girl's opinion. As they finished the chant, my friend handed me a pen and a notebook where I was supposed to write down the replies from the board, and I asked not to be a part of it. I never once used the board throughout the 3 years that I had it, and after $14.99 plus shipping, go figure. My friend started out with a very broad questions. Is there anyone with good intentions that would like to speak with us? Is there a person in the area that would like to speak to us? we would like to talk to you. This went on for about 8 minutes, and by then I was pretty thoroughly bored, and however, my friend waited patiently and said after another minute had passed, if there was no one at this time that would like to speak with us, we are going to say goodnight. After about a 10-second wait, the girl started to push the pointer to goodbye when they moved it to the middle again. At this point, I thought they were just trying to play around to get each other to laugh after the letdown until my friend said to write down what the board was saying. It started off very simply. The board said hello, and the girls greeted it and asked if it would like to talk to them tonight, and the board pointed to yes. Now, I got to tell you, I remember just about everything that happened that night, down to every word spelled, for two reasons. Number one, I was writing everything down, and number two, I cannot write things down quickly, even under pressure, and the board was spelling at a slower rate than I was. This is the following conversation we had. What would you like us to call you, or do you have a name we can call you by? Richard. Okay, Richard, are you a spirit or an entity? Human. Defiantly. It says defiantly. At this point, the two girls wanted to stop, but my friend said no, which was in code, not right now. What do you mean by human? I was human. Now I'm spirit. How do you become a spirit? I died. How did you die, Richard? Accident. What kind of accident? No. What do you mean by no, Richard? No. You don't want to talk about your accident? At this point, the pointer moved quicker to the letters N-O, and again my friend asked if what he meant by no. What do you mean by no, Richard? No more accidents. No more. No more. At this time, three girls, the two from before and another, said Lucy very loudly, and again my friend said not right now. Unfortunately, I wanted to stop also, but I also wanted to see what would happen. It was like watching a horror movie for me. I wanted to see the end, but I didn't want to be scared, so I kept quiet. Okay, Richard, we won't make you talk about it anymore, okay? Not Richard. Again, this made me a little freaked out, and I still get that feeling while writing this. However, the girls did not want to stop. They wanted to continue, so we plundered on ahead. Then who is this, and where is Richard? This is me. Richard left. You are mean. He was very sad, so you must be mean. We're very sorry about Richard, but we don't want to talk to you until you tell us who you are. But you're mean, and Mommy said don't talk to strangers. At the time, I was torn between yelling out Lucy on the top of my lungs or just crying, and I know that crying may seem like a strange reaction for that sentence, but I can remember wanting to cry so much at that time. It felt like I just saw the ending scene from The Notebook all over again. Nevertheless, the girls carried on asking for a name, and after 3 tries, they received one. Nicole. Is your name Nicole, or are you lying? No, Mommy said lying is a sin. Okay, Nicole, how old are you? 7. Oh, really? I have a brother that age. Apparently that was a big no-no. Every girl turned and glared at me for my intrusion. Apparently it was dangerous for someone not touching the pointer to talk or to mention things that could hurt me later on. The pointer moved, so the girls had to turn around so they could spell it out again. Boys are mean too. What do you mean, Nicole? Boys are mean and icky, especially Bastian. Who is Bastian, Nicole? My brother. Why is Bastian mean? He lies and didn't listen to Mommy. Why did Bastian lie, Nicole? We waited about 3 minutes for a reply, and the pointer moved again, and we thought we were still talking to Nicole. But we weren't. Because he's naughty. What? My friend didn't get to finish the question before the pointer moved. Naughty. This word was repeated about 9 times before I said Lucy, and 5 other girls said it, and my friend did not say the word, but as per our agreement, she said goodbye forcefully. Moreover, when the girls decided to push the pointer to goodbye, they met a little bit of resistance, and we all said goodbye, and just about slammed the board into the box. My friend quickly took the board and put it back in the center of the circle before the girls left the circle or would allow me to. They said a quick thanks for the protection provided that, and they rose as a group, and we left the circle together. We all quickly ran upstairs to my friend's room, and we noticed that the entire conversation took about 2 hours because it was around 5:20 a.m. Because it was a sleepover, we decided to take buddies into the bathroom, and we would get ready for bed and stay in groups. My friend was upset because she was forced to stop the conversation early on, and so when I was with her and another girl, one from the coven I had just met, she was a senior, she asked to keep the board until the coven came back later to try it again. I didn't hesitate in saying yes, and while the girl looked like she was about to object until she was silenced by my friend's father, asking if we knew what time it was, and if we had to wake up in an hour to get, and he had to wake up in an hour to get ready for work. So we finished changing and primping for bed before we returned to the bedroom to find the other 4 upset about something. It appeared to them as if one girl felt a tugging on her hair and cold pressure on her foot. She considered herself sensitive, so the coven took it very seriously. However, being the skeptic I was, I know I was in rebellion, and even after that session I still thought that maybe she was just a bit spooked. Decided that I would wait for them to calm down before I asked if maybe she just caught her hair on something, or maybe even if her foot fell asleep, and this was, as I found out later, rude because I had somehow called a girl a liar. So for the rest of the night they discussed what the unanswered questions could be. They carried on talking for quite some time, and no sleep was had at that sleepover. As you may have guessed, that was the last time I saw my board. My friend kept it, and it seems that she used it on her own to try to contact Nicole and Richard again, to no avail. In addition, with the help of her coven, they destroyed the board because of negative energies that clung to the board. So that was kind of a long one, but it's I don't know. I mean, nothing too hard to believe there. It's sounds pretty standard. All right, the next one is from Delaware. I hope you guys can bear with me, as he just passed 3 months ago. My grandfather had been sick for the past 3 years, and on January 2007, he took a turn for the worse. Toward the middle of March, I had taken time off from work to be with my grandfather, and every night I went to my fiance's house to stay. March 19th, I started out as a usual day. My fiance and I went to my grandmother's house to spend some time with my grandfather, and we were there until about 11:30 that night. We went back to her house, where I was ready for bed, and just as I laid down at about 12:30, I received a phone call from my mom on the cell phone. She told me that my grandfather had passed away at 12:17 a.m. on March 20th. I started to cry. I called my fiancée, who had just taken a shower, and as I sat on the couch, she came out, and I just looked at her, and she said, "He passed, didn't he?" And all I did was shake my head yes. She told her mom that we were going back. Even as I sit here typing this, I'm starting to cry. We get there, and everyone was around him, and I decided to lay on the floor. Everyone else was sitting down or out in the kitchen talking, and the next thing I knew, I felt something kick me in the leg, and I looked and asked everyone if they had kicked me, and of course they all said no. I think my grandfather wanted to tell me goodbye. Yeah, get out of my way. I'm dead. Oh, man. What a loving goodbye. The next one's out of Oregon. My stepdad died in 2002, and I don't remember the dates, but I remember that it was in 2002. And after he died, I was really pretty sad, and I started sleeping on our couch in the living room, and at night I would watch television. We had two computers on the other side of the living room, and one was his, and a week after his death, when I was trying to sleep, I could hear a cough. He had heart problems and diabetes, and and the clicking of a keyboard. And when I looked over at his computer, I saw the bluish outline of him. And other than that, I could hear sounds of bags, like chip bags rustling. And when I checked, no one was there. But I could still hear it. My old cat, Tornado, who disappeared, never really liked my stepdad. And after he died, my stepdad died in his and my mom's bedroom, Tornado would never go in that room again. And when I went in there for about a month, it was always really cold. What was strange was I could hear it as if he were still alive. But I could see him. I could see him as clearly as day. I knew I was awake because I spilled some milk on my shirt the first night, and it was there in the morning, and I asked everyone, but no one else could see him or hear him. About 2 months after that, it stopped completely. I just thought I'd share my story. Thanks. And I wonder about that. I mean, do some linger for a while? Is there a process? I know that in some Slavic countries, they have a period of like 3 days after someone passes where they put black cloths over the mirrors to make sure that the loved ones that have passed, who will be wandering around, don't get stuck in any mirrors. And I don't know if there's something to that or not, but it is a tradition that's that is used. There's a period of time which they believe that these deceased loved ones are still here among us, that they don't just disappear in a vacuum of light. They visit people, they wander around. I guess they're coming to terms with their situation or something, but very interesting. All right. The next one, excuse me. I gotta take a drink. I love just breathing out of my mouth. It's awesome. Whew. All right, this one's coming out of Tennessee. My grandparents moved in the Rock House in 1980. Space was really limited for a family with 5 kids and only a 3-bedroom house. At first, when they moved in, everything seemed pretty normal. But after a few months, they started hearing some noises, like footsteps in the hallway when there would be no one there. And my grandmother kept 2 small dogs in the house, and she began to notice that every time something strange would happen, they would hide in the bathroom. One night, my dad and his 3 sisters were coming back home from the movies. When they pulled up to the house, they could see through the window what appeared to be Grandpa going into the bathroom. My dad waited outside of the bathroom for a few minutes, waiting for my grandfather to come out, and after waiting a while, he got worried and opened the door, and there was nobody in there. A few months later, another strange thing occurred. My aunt, who was sleepwalking, which she did a lot. Often she would fall and accidentally hurt herself. My dad hadn't fallen asleep and heard her moving around downstairs, so he went down the stairs and tried to find her, and when he did, she was walking towards the bathroom, and there was a man standing in front of her, only a few feet away. He was wearing overalls and a long white beard, and came a few inches below his chin, and my aunt just kept walking and walked completely through him. And after that, he disappeared. When my grandparents moved out 5 years later, he was still making noises and appearing often. Over the years, only a few people have lived in that house, and most only stay for a few years and leave it empty for a little while. Thanks for letting me tell this story. So this is the Rock House from out of Tennessee, I guess. I hadn't heard of this house before, but sounds pretty active. All right, a couple more since we've got more time. Let's just get to it. This one's coming out of New York. I'm 13 and I have been encountered with ghosts. I have been encountered with ghosts. Last year at camp, I was sleeping on the coach bus. For people who don't know what that is, it's a big comfy bus with a bathroom, DVD player, and TVs. When you fall asleep on the bus, kids take pictures of you and do stuff to you. And I didn't know they would draw on my face, but that didn't happen to me. Like in my other story, my dad came into my house and wanted to say hello, and my dad passed away December 2005, but I seemed to be getting messages from him in my dreams. Like, for instance, when I was asleep on the bus, my dad kept on saying, "Wake up and move to the left." And I'd say, "Why?" And he'd just say, "Just move. They will get you if you don't." I did wake up after and moved, and this annoying 14-year-old boy was just about to color my face with a blue pen, but fell when I moved to the left. I've been encountered with ghosts besides my dad. Like, my friend sent me a chain letter once. It said a ghost story about a girl that died, and then it said, "If you don't send this to 10 in 30 minutes, she will appear in your ceiling tonight and kill you." I didn't send it, but that night when I fell asleep, this girl showed up and started talking to me, and she was saying stuff about her life, why she hasn't been put to rest, and why she died, and she asked for advice. And I said, "I heard a chain letter about you. Maybe if you got rid of the chain letter, you'd be put to rest." So next day, the chain letter was gone. End of story. That was pretty interesting. Sounds like the kid's a bit of a sensitive. Next one's coming out of Oklahoma. In my neighborhood, there's a creek that runs through the middle, through about the middle of what? In my neighborhood, I guess the middle of the neighborhood. So my friend and I always meet there, and when we wanted to walk somewhere, one of the times she was taking longer than usual, so I decided to go down to into the creek, which I knew pretty well, and I was standing on a rock when I heard my friend start to come to the ledge, and they have a small ledge with a handrail built to keep people from falling in, and I heard twigs snapping on the bank about 1.5 yards above me. I looked up and saw a dark, man-shaped figure walking in the direction of the ledge. And I thought it was a resident at first, so I turned to my friend, who was coming nearer to me now, and told her that we were probably going to get in trouble from that guy, so we'd better leave. And she looked up at the bank and then back at me with a strange expression and said, "What guy?" When I looked up back onto the bank, the figure was gone. But I would have heard him leave, and there wouldn't have been time for him to be out of sight that fast, even if he was running. Once at my school, classes were about to start, so the playground outside was deserted, and I looked out onto the playground and saw a little boy swinging out there all by himself, and I turned my head thinking nothing of it at the time, and then I realized that a little boy shouldn't be outside when classes are about to start. The only reason I'm listing this is because a friend of mine told me she saw the ghost of a little boy who seemed to look just like the one I saw. So there's a chance it could be a ghost, but I'm not sure. Another time at school, some friends and I were sharing experiences with ghosts and things like that, and all of a sudden, all of us began to feel really cold. But everyone else in the room was feeling really warm, and later on, I was told that one of them, I was told be one of them to go into the largest stall in the bathroom. I did, and it was considerably colder in there, and when I left I had this terrible feeling of guilt and dread. Everyone that went in there that day experienced the same thing. Yet another time in the school bathroom, I was in the bathroom alone, and there was no one in the men's bathroom either, and after I went into the stall and locked the door, the lock began to rattle. I got scared and decided to go into a different stall, and it was also very cold. Two of my friends and I were in my backyard, being home alone, and then all of a sudden we heard the porch door slam. I have an enclosed back porch, rather. But there was nothing around to make it do that. There wasn't any wind that day, and my dog was laying in the sun, and one of my friends started saying that she heard one of those dolls that you squeeze, and it says, Mama, except it just kept saying it over and over again. My other friend started hearing it too. One of my friends and I were home alone again, and we had the TV turned off, and my friend looked at me and said, I hear your phone. And I told her that I didn't hear it ringing, and she said, No, not ringing. I hear someone clicking the buttons. We at the time had terrible sclerophobia, fear of bad guys, or of being kidnapped, raped, or killed. So we started freaking out and ran from the house. I think we might have read this person's other stories because I've never heard that word before, and now it's referred to in here as well. Broken Arrow's Intermediate High School theater room is haunted by a ghost named Hannah, who is said to have died from a concussion caused by jumping off the stage. This year, my 5th grade play was performed there, and I was in the chorus and not allowed backstage, but my friend was in the play, so she was in the hallway after changing into her costume when she felt the temperature drop and heard footsteps running towards her. She turned in their direction, and there was no one there, but the footsteps were running in the opposite direction. Huh. Lots of craziness going on there. Hold on. The next one's coming out of Maine. I've been a stay-at-home mom for about over a year now, and we bought and moved into our first home, a nearly new, only one previous owner home who owned it for a couple of years. It was a mobile home in a very nice community, and I've never, ever heard of a mobile home being haunted. Of course, I do know that land can be haunted. I don't think there's any reason a mobile home couldn't be haunted as well. It's just another place that people live. I've done a little bit of research and found that the 25 years this community has been here, the lot that we currently occupy has been vacant until our home was put on it in 2002, which is strange because it's a corner lot and could easily accommodate a home. We bought this place in March 2006 and had an uneasy feeling from the first night, like someone was watching me from the hallway. Exactly 1 week after moving in, I gave birth to our first and only daughter, who is now 15 months old. About a month later was the first time I heard it, which is when my husband started working overnights. Huh. Heard what, though? It says, we bought this place. I had an uneasy feeling from the first night. Felt like someone was watching from the hallway, and exactly 1 week after moving in, I gave birth to the daughter, who is now 15 months old. About a month later was the first time I heard it, which was when my husband started working overnights. I'm not sure what they heard. That's not being very clearly defined by this account, but I was going to sleep, and at 2:30 a.m. going back to bed after my daughter's 1 a.m. feeding, which is when I started trying to get her to sleep on her own, in her own room rather, and I heard a loud, evenly spaced footsteps of what sounded like boots or heavy type shoes going up and down the hallway to my room. I laid there in my room for about 10 minutes listening to it and petrified that someone was in the house, and my eyes were glued to the doorway, expecting the person to walk right up into my room, and then it would go back down the hall and then come back. A few minutes after the footsteps dissipated, which I chalked up to tree branches hitting the roof maybe, I was startled again when I heard 2 distinct male voices having a conversation in my living room. It was so clear, like if I had been closer I could hear exactly what they were saying. It sounded like the older male, 50s age, and a younger male in their 20s or 30s, and as soon as I stepped in the hallway, the voices stopped as fast as they appeared. I looked out all the windows to see if maybe someone was taking a late night stroll around the park, and there was absolutely nobody around. And I've also discovered, living here now for a year, that when all the windows and doors are closed, it's impossible to hear someone speaking outside unless they're right at the window yelling, and then you can only hear them within maybe a 10-foot radius. So I've been able to dismiss that someone was just taking a walk. After that night, I brought my daughter back to my bedroom, and she stayed there until she outgrew the bassinet at 2.5 months old and went back to sleeping in her own bedroom. And a couple weeks later, I heard the footsteps again. Then the next night, the male voices were there again. In November, I started getting my hair pulled whenever I was in the kitchen, and it was like a playful tug, but it was firm enough for me to whip my head around to see who was doing it. And there was never anyone behind me or even close to me except once. My husband and I were doing the dishes together, and I was washing and he was drying or rinsing, our usual pattern, and there was a hard tug on my ponytail, but it wasn't my husband because he had both hands in the sink. And even if it had been him, my hair would have been wet because his hands were wet and it wasn't. I seriously thought that I was going insane. So I went to a doctor who had now put me on several anti-anxiety meds. And I also have PTSD from childhood sexual abuse that has contributed to a history of anxiety. And while the meds may have helped deal with the PTSD and anxiety attacks, the voices and footsteps disappeared for a little while, and that is when I noticed weird orbs and wisps in about a third of the pictures of my daughter, and the best one that I had was lost when my computer crashed 2 weeks ago. I am so mad, but then got worse. Around February, I was reading in bed one night when all of a sudden there was a loud, "Hey," right in my ear. That's terrible. It's so creepy. I don't know what the hell they do that stuff for. I even felt the heat of the breath in my ear and neck. And I was home alone except for my baby who was sleeping in her crib, and I was completely freaked out. But somehow, I managed to finish the book I was reading and went to bed. At 2:30 a.m., I woke up to loud footsteps stomping up and down the hall. That went on for about 2 to 3 minutes, and I eventually was able to fall asleep again. I've heard the loud "hey" several times since, and every time it is followed briefly by the heavy footsteps in the hallway. I haven't had my hair tugged since December, though, and I've only heard the male voices in the living room a few times since, but that's because I am so paranoid that they will wake me up. I've been staying up until 3 a.m. to avoid the 2:30 a.m. wake-up "hey," followed by the disturbances. I know that if it is something, it seems to be mostly residual, so I have nothing to be afraid of. I just don't like getting woken up or hearing voices in my living room at 2:30 in the morning. It freaks me out and makes me think someone is in the house. Any suggestions how I can deal with this without taking a sleeping pill? I really, really would appreciate any suggestions or any comments anyone has. Thank you all for your time. Now, I don't know about it being residual because the fact that it's right in her ear and she can feel the breath, to me that denotes intelligence because it's targeting her specifically. It was just a "hey" somewhere in the room, a disembodied voice, followed by these footsteps in a pattern that repeated, then I would agree, but it seems to be targeting her. It seems to be looking for a reaction from her. Otherwise, why would it be right in her ear? I mean, that part, I don't know. That would be my question. Could it be residual? Sure, I guess, but it seems to want to affect her. So, I don't know, just some thoughts. Oh man, this cold is just kicking my tail. My eyes are watery and dry, and ooh, let's see. Oh. Oh. Oh shoot. Okay. I'll have to check that. Got a message from someone to check something else, so all right. What do we got? 13. I'll do another couple quick stories. but I don't have a lot of energy, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just feeling really tired and wiped out. So, and I don't know. That's the thing with me. Colds just seem to really drag the hell out of me for a while. So this one's coming out of Michigan. A few years back, when I was 13, I was walking down the stairs when I spotted someone walking across my porch. I turned and asked my older brother, who was standing in the kitchen, if someone had been outside, perhaps maybe one of my younger cousins, but he shook his head, stating that my cousins were at their dad's. And I just wrote it off and thinking that I had just been seeing things and continued on my day. Then about a week later, I was sitting on the couch watching the news when I spotted someone sitting in a chair in the computer room just looking at me. It was a little boy about 4 or 5, and he had blonde hair and was wearing a white shirt and blue pants. I blinked and he was gone. By then I was asking anyone who possibly knew something about this little boy, and I talked with my stepdad who had grown up in the area, and he said that his uncle had been struck by lightning and killed outside the house, but he had been an older gentleman. When I was little, strange things had always happened to me, like electronics going off and off while I slept, so on and so forth, but to this day, I haven't figured out anything about the boy, but I figure it's best to let things like this be and not shake up the pieces that I have known over the past few years. Huh. Yeah. It might not be a child at all, just saying. Okay, and this is another pretty quick one, but this one's coming out of Florida. It says, my name is Stephanie, and I have a ghost in my house. And first, a little history. We moved into this house 8 years ago and bought it for a great price. And apparently the owner was sick and was dying of cancer, and his wife needed to sell right away, as they now lived in New York and were renting the house out. I was always scared to go up and down the stairs. I'd get a really creepy feeling, but one morning my daughter said that she was having a bad dream and woke up and there was a man in a dark cape and a hat looking at her. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, he was standing behind the door, and she could only see his hat above the door, and this would mean he was about 8 feet tall. She closed her eyes again, and it was walking down the stairs. Maybe a few weeks later, my other daughter told me of a very similar experience with the same caped man in a hat, and I had a dream also. Something loud woke me, and it sounded like a marble bouncing on the floor, and I was paralyzed. In my dream, I saw a very tall, caped figure in my daughter's room, and I tried so hard to move so I could get up and help my daughter, but I just couldn't. I called my mom and told her that she might think this is crazy, but I think I have an evil spirit in the house, and she and I and all my aunts started praying, and I no longer felt scared. But every time I mention the ghost, something happens. I was talking to 2 of my girlfriends about it on my patio, and when my daughter's remote control car went crazy, and I don't think it was even working. We were watching a show about ghosts with my mother-in-law, and told her about our ghost, and when the back door swung open and my mother-in-law's walker moved about 3 feet on its own, as if it wanted to say, "Hi, I'm here." I feel it is a guardian, and I'm no longer scared. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it would be, I guess. That's caped in a hat. I know by hat I'm thinking of like a top hat, like a Abraham Lincoln kind of hat, but standing around the 8 foot tall mark is usually a method of intimidation. I mean, I believe spirits can appear how they choose to, but oftentimes they appear huge just to freak people out. So if it's your guardian, I don't know, I'd want to freak people out, but I could be wrong. Angels are alleged to be 8 or 9 feet tall when they appear to people, or even much taller. So maybe it's an angelic thing. I don't know. It doesn't say what color cape and hat, but I don't know. Did it? Let me look again. A dark cape and hat, so I guess it's dark colored. And I don't think that dark, it's not like the old cowboy shows where the bad guys wear dark and the good guys wear white. I mean, I don't think that kind of stuff is really that significant, but it's curious. It could be a guardian, I guess. I don't know. Anything's possible. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think that about wraps up our journey for the evening. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have a paranormal story of your own and you'd like to share it on the show, I'll be going through listener emails tomorrow night. So I guess you got a little bit of time if you had a story you'd like to submit for the show. If you do and you'd like me to read it on the air, email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And let me know in there if you want to be identified or not. I don't want to call people out that would rather be anonymous, or if you want to be named, and I don't name you. If you don't specify whether you want to be named or not, I'm just going to assume that you don't. So it'll just be a listener. But if you want to be named, or you don't mind if you're named, then let me know in the email. But submit it, because I'd love to read your stories tomorrow night on the show. Again, we're going to have listener call-in night as well. So if you have something paranormal you'd like to discuss, that can be UFO, it can be cryptid, it can be spiritual, it can be whatever you want to talk about. Just call in and be a part of the show. And that'll be starting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, all right, here on YouTube, as well as on TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So it'll be a network show, so we got commercial breaks and all that stuff tomorrow night and Saturday night. Remember that Kevin Lang of Glagland will be joining us and discussing his encounters and experience with Bigfoot. And specifically, he was a young man who basically saved a young Sasquatch, and they became the best of friends. So a very interesting story, and it's a very unusual story, but I think that there's something to this. This guy has really seen something incredible and experienced something incredible for a number of years. So tune in and participate in that. And that'll be Saturday night, and he'll be on, and I'm sure he'll be on a few more times after that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Tomorrow, it's Friday. Enjoy it, and you're getting braced for the weekend, so we got that going for us. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, and send me healing vibes so I don't get hammered by this cold. I don't know if it's going to help at this point, but maybe it'll help for a speedier recovery. So I love you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow night for the regular 2-hour show. So good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.